let's get to the important stuff. Let's get to the good people. Let's get to why we're actually having this party. The guests. Coming up first, ladies and gentle friends, she is the class, the refinement, the excellence, and the brilliance at WEEI and on the Six Rings podcast. She also does a phenomenal job with her weekly YouTube show for the Boston Celtics as well. You could fill all the oceans with everything that she knows about football, basketball, and so much more. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make some noise for the wonderful and very talented Miss Meghan Ottolini joining the Pats pre-agency party.
Oh, my God.
Meghan!
What an intro.
What an intro. I don't think anyone's described me as that classy in my whole life.
Well, look at you. You
Yeah,
came out.
that was an audition for the McAfee show. You had us clapping right away. You were just saying over.
All right, first, I got to say, Callahan over there.
Yeah.
Going
Let me stand up here. I got the tank on.
We got Mego here, Doug Kyed, Callahan. Everyone's here going downtown. All right. By the way, it is a BYOB affair. I'm not sure if Mego stirred a proper martini. Shout out to our friends at Vitamin C, our official beverage sponsor of the night. Dino and the crew down there in Weymouth and Plymouth do it up right. So thank you guys. Mego, how we doing tonight?
I'm good. I wish I could be hitting up my martini. I got to do TV in a couple hours. So that would probably be not like the best order of operations, but I'll toast to you guys later in the evening.
Excuse me, waiter. Do you have any more humble brags available? This first one was delicious.
You poor thing. Do you have to go on there with Hurley?
Yes, with Hurley. Yeah,
Ouch.
as they're doing a big hockey show tonight on Boston Sports Tonight on NBC Sports Boston. And they said, let's go get the preeminent hockey expert in New England, Meghan Ottolini. So I got to do it, duty calls.
That is just absolutely fantastic. I thought you were going to show up and just be like, "Hey, boys, Dorothy Parker of football here. Let's all get tight and have a right proper time." All right, Mego. So we've talked about this on Six Rings a number of times as well. And I know you and Shime have kicked it around on the weekends, but just for the audience at large that hasn't had a chance to hear your 10,000-foot view on how the Patriots need to conduct affairs. They've done a great job to date. Free agency begins Monday, draft a month and a half later. What does your ideal rest of the offseason look like for the Patriots?
Well, I mean, there's so many items that you have to hit for the Patriots if you're looking at a real turnaround for next season in one offseason. I think they've done a great job, as you kind of alluded to there, about what they've done with the coaching staff. But I don't have anything extremely new or different to say. It all comes down to the offensive line for me. I think that's the most important point where they have to start in free agency. Hopefully they'll be able to lock down Ronnie Stanley. If they can't, then I think that they're either going to have to go down to a different tier of player or look seriously in the draft for someone who is going to be their left tackle of the future. It's all about the offensive line. To me, it should have been for the last 2 years, and it's the area that they've been neglecting the most, and it is the most important for your rookie quarterback.
Yeah, if you want to boil it down beyond Ronnie Stanley, is there one other guy that you think that they need to come out of free agency, the draft? Is there like one other guy that you've fallen in love with this offseason that you need the Patriots to get?
I mean, I do think that they need to upgrade the wide receiver room, and I put the emphasis on upgrade because the way that wide receiver trade talk works is, I'm sure you guys agree with, or free agency is, oh my God, go get, AJ Brown. Oh my God, what if there is a chance? People think that there's going to be some kind of like Justin Jefferson level guy who's going to shake loose for some reason and come to the Patriots. And I say upgrade. I would look at even somebody like I wrote for WEEI yesterday, swinging a trade for Jacoby Myers. He's somebody who worked really well in the McDaniels system, and even maintained a good relationship with McDaniels out in Vegas. And maybe you could bring him back when he had a 1,000+ receiving yard season last year. That's an upgrade. I'm not saying that's like your wide receiver one. I don't know if you're going to be in a position this offseason where you look at a room where you have a wide receiver one. That's where you've been for a couple of years, but I definitely like to see some upgrades.
Andrew, if I may, real quick, on the wide receiver front, we just got a super chat in from Hitman Technique of the Week, which is germane to what Mego was talking about. Thank you for your donation, Hitman. Mego, do you think the Patriots should go after wide receiver Chris Godwin? I'll follow that up with earlier today, our pal Mike Giardi saying, I think also Callahan, did Curran also echo this, that looks like Godwin might be the wide receiver target number one for the Pats?
Yeah, I think my guy Doug Kyed had that. By the way, Fitzy, if we get another super chat from someone called Hitman, I want him to get his question answered right away. I don't want to wait for Hitman to take his time and wonder what his options are. We need to get to him as soon as possible. That said, yes, Godwin is far and away. Giardi report he's actually watching right now. Hello, Mike. That he's supposed to get more than $25 million. And the Patriots are the driver behind that money bus. So they're responsible. I would go there, Mego, but I don't know where you are in the money for Chris Godwin.
So I guess my only hesitation with Chris Godwin, other than him being 29 years old with a newly surgically repaired ankle, is that if they are going to go that far at above 25 mil a year for Chris Godwin, is that going to make them restrain themselves a little bit more on possible other targets in trades or free agency or whatnot? I hear at the combine that they want to be aggressive, and Vrabel says they know that they're going to have to overspend in free agency in particular. That's how these things work. But then you hear all the pivot talk, and that makes me nervous too. So I guess like if they're going to go out and spend on that much money on somebody for the average annual value, I'd rather it be a tackle. I'd rather it be Ronnie Stanley. I'm just worried that you're going to be in a situation where because you're spending that much cash, you're picking and choosing the players that you're spending it on. And I think there are bigger needs than Godwin would fill.
Yeah, I think they've got enough cap space to add, say, a few of those guys, maybe two, maybe three, whatever. Like they have the cap space to do it. It's just about how they want to spend.
Will they
money.
spend the cash? Will they offer, for example, Chris Godwin, or if they go after someone in free agency, will they offer the guaranteed cash? Because historically they haven't really been that team.
And I think Godwin is not necessarily like the sexiest name that's out there right now. Fans would probably rather have Brandon Ayuk or DK Metcalf, but I would say that by the start of free agency, the Patriots will probably have a pretty good idea of where they stand on those trades. So you'd rather them wind up with someone rather than nothing at that wide receiver position. So you'd rather them spend $25 million on Godwin than wind up with no one.
Right. I totally agree with that. I think I think I'm just a little bit less enthused than some other people, and I feel I need to explain why.
For sure.
Callahan?
Yeah, I think that's fair. There's no excuses anymore, right? Like this is what you rolled over all the cap for. Everyone is very, very, very aware of the cash numbers. If you're the Crafts, you just blew up a whole 3-year vision and perhaps beyond with Gerard Mayo to bring in Mike Vrabel, paid more for moving allowances, paid more for assistant salaries. Like this is it. You cannot have a half measure now with the roster, the product and the labor that separates you and defines every single franchise. It's not just the coaches that change things around. And Chris Godwin has a residual value, which is like, this is kind of cliche, but I've known of him and people who know close to him for a long, long time. He is going to be a captain. He would be an instant locker room guy. And for the most immature room that they have all their positions, Jalen, best hands in the league, Polk, Kayshon Boutte, why aren't you throwing me the ball more? Demario Douglas, week 4, which look, they're all in their early 20s. I was doing probably worse things in my early 20s. That guy sets a tone. He helps Drake May. He helps those receivers. He brings the culture Mike Vrabel wants to. So, yeah, I'm all in on Godwin, and it shouldn't prevent them. In my opinion, the opportunity cost should be minimal. This is.
Can we follow up there?
Yes,
these worst things you were doing in your early 20s?
No, this is going to be after 2 beers or 3. All
right. Well, actually, if we're going to talk early 20s, how many of us, when we were 22, fresh off of school, came home for a night of rowdy consumption with our friends in downtown Boston, got on the T, a friend busted out a J, and 3 drags in. The T pulled over between North Quincy and Quincy Center, I think it is. Literally, the engineer walked 6 cars back and he went, "Get off." He opened the door. We had to jump down off the train, off the tracks. I had to walk 4 miles back home. Highest kites laughed the entire way. So didn't really feel any pain. But now that I look back upon it, it's that's questionable judgment.
Megan, do you have
your favorite media take as of late? We've all been doing similar questions, offensive line, receiver. What's your least favorite? Your favorite bad media take as of late?
Does it have to be football?
No.
Okay, I did see, and this was not somebody in media, but I did see a lot of back and forth on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it today, trying to make comparisons about the fire sale from the Bruins to every other sport. And the one that got me was somebody said, for the Celtics, this is the equivalent to trading Tatum, Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis. And I was like, this is the worst comparison I've ever heard. First of all, one of these teams just won the championship and is running it back. And the other one is going nowhere. And you're comparing a just newly birthday celebrating 27-year-old to a 37-year-old Brad Marchand. I'm not somebody who usually gets super worked up about crossing sports. I'm fine. Like, some people would like to make a football comparison to everything. Some people would like to compare Larry Bird to every great star who's ever come through Boston. Like, if you want to explain it a different way, that's fine. But you got to make sure it makes sense. Like, to me, I was like, nope, we can't go here. I understand you're upset about Brad Marchand leaving town. You know, that's tough for a lot of Bruins fans to swallow, but that does not make sense.
Let's see if we can squeeze in one more super chat queue for Mego and our final question before we wrap things up. So many questions coming in. Oh, here we go. All right. Let's see. Lift Blue Rocker. Yeah.
Whoa.
Man,
wow.
Stole that from me on the socials. Lift Blue Rocker. What are some under the radar players you think New England could add in free agency? Sending love from the VA. Thank you very much. From one Commonwealth to the next. We appreciate your support tonight. Lit Blue Rocker. Mego, any under the radar guys we've talked about, or perhaps that you have stumbled across that you would like to see the Pats pick up?
Well, I think what's curious to me, and I'd love to hear your guys' perspective on this, your feelings on the free agency market for running backs. You were talking about how strong of a draft this is going to be for running backs. And we've seen over the last several years, the value of that position, really be devalued in the league because of the passing game and because of how short those careers are, the wear and tear, everything. But you look at what Saquon Barkley and other guys who moved in free agency last year were able to do for their teams. Now you pair it with the Eagles, you pair Derrick Henry with the Ravens. I'm wondering for you guys, like, I think that the free agency list of running backs is pretty long and impressive. Is it worth to you going out and actually taking a swing on any of those guys like J.K. Dobbins or anyone out there? Or do you think that that's just kind of throwing your money around when you can pick up somebody in the draft pretty easily?
If someone's cheap enough, I don't mind the idea, but since it is such a strong draft class, like, I would prefer to add youth at that position. As far as like a under the radar guy, the Patriots could target, like, we're talking about wide receivers. I know once again, won't be the sexiest one, but like Joshua Palmer from the Chargers, wouldn't be shocked if some team pays him more than you might expect. But no, as far as free agent running backs go, like I said, if it's cheap enough, maybe to add some depth there, but I prefer to draft one.
Yeah, I would look at defensive tackle, because Doug and I last week in Indy, heard the Patriots are really staring at the possibility that Christian Barmore might not come back. And it's not a case of he's not coming back. They just don't know. So if you put his starter, his next door neighbor, Devon Gotcha, on the trade block, you're like, who's going to replace him? And after Milton Williams, BJ Hill's a name I would look at, DJ Jones, guys who have played in one gap, attacking style fronts, Poona Ford, or Levi because I can't say the rest of his name from Detroit.
Zurke?
Yeah.
Whoa, show
up. That sounds great.
He's a UW guy.
I love that show on Netflix. It was great.
But that's where I'm looking. Like, if they want to build from the trenches out, it's not just, top of the market guys are bust. That's where the plan B, C, and D is really going to come in. And defensive tackles, I think, an area that we've, after Milton Williams, kind of collectively overlooked.
Mego, one last question before we let you go. I see our next guest is in the queue, hydrating, getting ready to rock and roll. But
Nice.
This question is most germane to you, of course. So last year, your team, the Commanders, did everything that they should do. We obviously don't want the Patriots to flip ownership, but they brought in a new GM, kicked out the jackwagon that was Dan Snyder. Josh Harris comes in, hires Adam Peters, who of course worked with John Lynch. And they go from 4-13 to 12-5. Now, a lot of it had to do with the fact that what they signed, 10 of their guys in free agency started or contributed. They bought the ageless Bobby Wagner in, and then of course your quarterback was off the charts good. They go to 12-5. So, what are just a couple of things or ways the Pats could do to flip their script in 2025 and go from those Pats to Commander style Patriots?
I got to be honest. I think that what the Commanders did was so surprising, and I wouldn't say unprecedented, but it feels close to that. That I think it's unfair to look at where the Patriots are right now and say, like, oh, well, the Commanders did that last year. Why can't you do that? I think Drake is an outstanding quarterback and hopefully will be in the same tier as Jaden Daniels as they both move forward. I say that for both of them. Like, hopefully they're both top 5, top 10 quarterbacks over the next several years, and we're able to have like this new era of young elite quarterbacks. But to me, like what you mentioned with free agency is interesting. So if the Patriots are able to execute a similar concept to what the Commanders did last year, where it's kind of spreading the money around with a lot of these proven veterans, but none of them are necessarily like a Chris Godwin, where you're giving him 25 million or even north of that in annual average value. I think that that's probably a different kind of style of free agency than a lot of casual or just Patriot fans would like, because you're not going to get some of the spiciest
working
names.
class Mego. No, it's the legit free.
Well, I think that's a little bit harder to sell to people. The other thing I would say that I think is very much in the Patriots' favor that they've already done already is Dan Quinn is a coach who that team like will run through a wall for. They love the players always love Dan Quinn, and they love that guy there. And I think they bought what he was selling hook, line, and sinker as soon as he came to town. And that was an organization that was in the worst possible way, even the season before, like much worse off than the Patriots were in terms of the feeling inside the building, trying to transition out of this old, horrible ownership group and the Snyder era and everything that went along with it, like the building literally falling on top of their fans. So I think like if you have Vrabel be anything compared to that, it's a great start.
Yep, it is. And by the way, also, if you say Dan Quinn's name fast enough, it sounds like a forgotten planet in the Star Wars universe. So just a stupid.
Okay.
My one Star Wars reference
You know
tonight,
I'm not
Callahan.
a Star Wars guy.
You said it was okay. You said, Andrew, you said I could get one Star Wars joke in. That's all I wanted tonight.
One per segment, please. Yeah, Dan Quinn. Yeah.
Also, shout out Sean Tangway. Thank you so much. A $100 super chat. No questions. Just want to support the cause. Sympathies to the Kyed family. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sean. That is incredible of you. Mego, great time. Good luck on TV tonight. Yep. Listen to her on the weekends on WEEI. Read her stuff at WEEI.com and follow her at Meghan_Ottolini. We all love you here. We appreciate you so much, and thank you for your time.
Love you guys.
Meghan.
Love the Kyed family.
Thank you.
Bye, Mego.